The reason why your body hasn't changed is nothing to do with a plan. It's nothing to do with your program, your nutrition, your training, your supplementation, none of that jazz. In fact, that's all just a placebo. And it in fact has everything to do with the psychological cycle which you've been subconsciously running underneath. And when you learn the cycle of how this works and then the science behind it, it's going to change the way you think about this entire process in of itself. Okay. Why should you trust me? Well, I've worked with close to 1,000 people now, and I've worked from the surface level. I've done all the things in which you tried to do before, realised that it hasn't worked, and realised that there is a pattern that runs underneath all of this stuff, which is holding the person back, which is now what I do. I break people's limited beliefs down, their subconscious beliefs, and therefore the actions which they do subconsciously to get them to where they want to need to get to. Okay? So, first things first, let's understand the cycle. Because this cycle governs everything in which you do. Every action in which you take on a conscious and subconscious level runs through this cycle right here. And the thing about this running through the subconscious cycle is this is what you do 95% of the time. So all the actions in which you are doing throughout most of the day, you're not thinking about. All the habits in which you're doing, you are doing subconsciously. You're not thinking about them. Therefore, these are driving 95% of the outcomes in which you get. That is why this is pretty fucking important. Because if you're thinking out of your conscious brain all the time, cool, you're going to be exhausted by midday. But when we're acting from a subconscious standpoint, you're naturally going to get yourself to where you want to get to without having to force it. Okay, so this is how it works. This is how this cycle manifests within itself. So it starts off with a belief. You have a belief about a certain thing, right? Whether that be yourself, a process, how to do something. This is the way in which you think about it. Okay, in psychology, we call this your identity, your self-concept. In universal law, you can call this your frequency, or in neuroscience, you can call this your nervous system. But all of these three things do the same thing. They just govern your belief system about the way in which the world works and how you carry yourself. Okay, so your belief will then lead into an emotional state. Now, this emotional state is the place in which you operate from an emotive level, the emotive energy in which you put out. One thing you've got to remember about emotion is just energy emotion. So the energy emotion is the state in which you're in, and then the state in which you're in will determine the behavior in which you take. The behavior in which you take will determine the result. This is where the issue comes in. We all focus so heavily on this behavior. We think, I'm going to try and change my diet. I need to follow a different training program. I need to sack this coach and get the next one. Because all you're doing is following this part of the process and not realizing that this part of the process has got multiple steps that come before it. What you're essentially trying to do is, and I've used this diagram down here, is change the reflection in the mirror without changing yourself. And sometimes you can subconsciously change your behavior and then this leads to a better result. But until you are aware of the cycle in which you're going through, this is never going to happen. So the way in which this gets even worse, right? And this is why people get stuck in the same pattern for life. And this is very likely why you found yourself stuck in the exact same body for years, despite all the efforts in which you've made, is because your belief turns into your emotional state turns into your behavior turns into the result you get. And then the problem with this is if all of these things are wrong and the belief system is wrong, the result is going to reaffirm this belief one step further. And that's where this gets destructive, because the belief in which you don't want to no longer hold is affecting you in an emotional way in which you don't want to have, to do behavior in which you don't want to have, to give you a result which you don't want to have, which is going to continuously reaffirm this belief system right here. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle, and this is why people find that they can never break it. And when we look into the neuroscience side of things, this proves this cycle even further, and it helps you understand this, right? Because your nervous system basically governs your subconscious mind. Everything in which you do subconsciously is driven by your nervous system. That's why you get anxious. This is why you get nervous, because your body feels like it's under threat. And the one thing which you've got to learn about your nervous system is your nervous system's job is not to protect you from what you want to be protected from. It's going to protect itself from the narrative that you hold, and it's going to protect itself from anything that counteracts that. So that is why behavior in which will actually get you your dream body, it perceives it as threat, because it goes against the version of you which you are now. And that's one thing in which you've got to remember, because your nervous system's got three roles, right? Homeostasis, and homeostasis is to keep your body consistent. Your body doesn't want change, your nervous system doesn't want change. It wants to keep it consistent and everything in line, right? So that is why your body actually getting to where you consciously want it to get to, your body perceives as threat, because that is out of homeostasis. That's different. It works through your reticular activating system. So your reticular activating system is the way in which you see the world, right? The lens in which you perceive the world as, which works through this process as well. Because the way in which you see the world, you don't see the world how it is, you see it how you perceive it. And what determines the way in which you perceive it? Your beliefs. If you believe that it's hard to lose weight, everywhere you look, you're going to think, oh my God, it's so hard to lose weight. If you think it's impossible for me to go to the gym, I don't like the gym is going to seem like a daunting place. So your reticular activating system is constantly reaffirming these beliefs back to you. And that's why it is seeing the world's hardest thing to change your beliefs. Because the world is showing you all the signs back that your belief is true, and you can't go against that. So you're basically trying to go at something blind, which is why people will never change. And then neuroplasticity as well. Because neuroplasticity is this cycle all over. Because what neuroplasticity's job is to do is to save metabolic load on the brain. So your brain will go through the same patterns. You've heard the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together. It will go through the same patterns. So let's say you have a belief that is, if I eat lower and lower amounts of food, I will lose weight. Your body is naturally going to go through that neuroplastic route time and time again, fire off the same neurons. And you're going to do the same things. You're going to subconsciously be starving yourself. You're going to then break yourself into these binge and restrict cycles. And it's going to lead you straight back to where you are now. So neuroscience proves this. And your nervous system is actively trying to hold you in the same spot. And that's why change is so hard. Now, I also like diving into the universal laws of things. I like the science, but I also like the philosophy. And I like the spiritual side of things, right? And there's a part of this process in Hermetic philosophy called law of mentalism. And when you understand mentalism and you understand how the world actually works, you understand that everything external is just a mirror from the internal. So the body in which you have is just a manifestation of the internal world that you have, okay? And the interesting part about this is it proves one thing further to you, is that the body is not the problem, it's the feedback, okay? So it's nothing to do with that you need to change the behavior in which you make, because the behavior is just the feedback from what's going on up here. To change the behavior, to change it from the emotional state, you have to change the belief first. Because what you're seeing is a manifestation of your beliefs playing out in front of you, okay? And it's as simple as that. And again, I draw you back to this image of you're in a world, outer world, the man looking in the mirror. By trying to change the mirror, by trying to change the way the mirror works, is never going to work. And temporarily it might work. You might be able to dress the mirror up, change the lighting, and it might make the mirror look a little bit nicer. But it's still going to be the same version of you looking in at the mirror and getting the same reflection back. And this is what you see so many fascinating examples of this, right? You see people go on GLP-1s, Mounjaro, and as soon as they stop, they go back to exactly where they were before they started. You see somebody do a fat loss challenge and they work hard for 12, 16 weeks and then eventually they are back to where they were before the challenge. Why? And you see this manifest in other avenues as well. You see when people win, it's something like 70 to 80% of people that win the lottery end up poor again in 2 years. You're like, how? And that's because their inner world didn't change. They might have seen this outer world change drastically due to luck and unforeseen circumstances, but eventually everything will start to work in line with that inner world because everything outside is just feedback of how that inner state is working. And that's an incredibly scary thing for some people to take on, but it's also incredibly overpowering and empowering thing as well. Because suddenly you realise that you are in control of everything. And all you then need to do is change this in the beliefs in which you exert. So, how are we going to do this? How is the integration for this going to work? There's multiple ways in which you can do this. But all we need to do is break this. We need to break the cycle. And there's a 3-step process in which you can use to do this. And this 3-step process is only kind of what you've been doing on a subconscious level anyway to form the beliefs in the first place, right? So the first step of this is actually awareness, right? So even by watching this video, you're going to have understood this awareness, right? You're going to see the cycle and you're going to understand it. And I want you to spend just the next 30 seconds thinking about what that cycle looks like for you. You know, what beliefs do you hold? What subconscious things do you truly think about yourself in the process of trying to get yourself to where you want to get to? Do you genuinely enjoy it? The amount of clients that I speak to that say, they view the process as punishment. And this is always an interesting take as well, because if you view the process as punishment, the emotional state this is going to put you in is of survival, right? Because when your body feels like it's being punished, it's going to act in survival. Nervous system becomes further dysregulated. It's going to take you right back to where you were because it's very out of line with homeostasis. So you have to be aware of the cycle in which you have, and then you can start to dismantle it. So like I said, what beliefs are driving it? And why? Every time in which you've got a belief, you've had something in your life that has happened to cause that belief, and it's happened on a deep emotive subconscious level. Because your beliefs aren't constructed by what you think consciously, but emotively. Because emotion is the language of the subconscious. So you've had something in your life which has created your belief system because it's come from a dark, deep place of emotion. That might be a good thing. It might be a bad thing. But usually the emotion comes from the evidence which you've seen, right? So let's say, and this is always a fantastic example, you see somebody that has starved themselves to lose the best part of 5 or 6 stone, right? They've been eating next to nothing. They've been grinding hard in the gym. Their belief system is now, I get to where I want to get to by bullying my body. Now, is this then going to help that individual build muscle, upregulate their hormonal health, their metabolic health, to put their body in a better position to sustain this result? Absolutely not, because they're going to see that as completely contradictory and eating more food to what they've done previously. And this is why people struggle so hard to break down the belief. So you have to look back and see what evidence have you seen and acknowledge that. You have to go, okay, this is why I think this way. And these beliefs get reaffirmed over time, over and over again, right? Because all of a sudden, all the information in which you see starts reaffirming the belief back. And subconsciously, using the reticular activating system, you filter out all the evidence that goes against that thing because it goes against you and it becomes a direct threat to you. So you have to dismantle that, and you have to sit there and go, why do you think that? What evidence has been proven to me to this happen? And why does this no longer serve me? You have to ask yourself, does this serve me anymore? And this is what I spend a lot of time doing with the people that I work with. I sit here and we go, you think this way. Are you aware that you thought that way? No. Do you understand how you've come across and started thinking that way? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You're like, yeah. But now do you understand that you no longer need this belief to get to where you want to get to? And it's through breaking that down, we can then start to re-evidence the subconscious mind. And there's a few ways in which I like to do this, right? So the most obvious one is new wins, right? So there's going to be a period in change that feels uncomfortable. There's going to be a period where doing things which go against your belief system, go against the emotional state, are going to feel strange. But then what happens is, if you subconsciously change the behavior, you force it, it changes the result, it then changes the belief system. So you can often work from the behavioral standpoint, but you have to understand that you did have an underlying belief and emotional state behind that you need to dismantle first. So then when you start to see new evidence, it starts to rewrite over the old evidence that you've started to dismantle because you realize that no longer served you. Another one of my favorite things to do is environment. So changing your environment around you can start to affect your belief system quite drastically, right? Because when you're seeing the same things all the time, you're going to the same gym, you're chatting to the same people, you're doing the same fucking actions day in, day out, you're going to think the same things. And that's just the way in which your brain works, right? Again, the reticular activating system. Your brain sees the same things, it thinks the same things, it reaffirms the same belief. It's incredibly powerful. So the fastest way to break that is to change your environment quite drastically. And this is why you often find that people, after breakups, they change drastically. When people move locations of where they live, they tend to change quite drastically. And it's because what you've done is you've broken down the environment around it that your body takes in. So then you've given yourself space to reinvent yourself with less things reminding you of the old identity in which you're trying to hold. So environment's a great one. I always say to people, go to a new gym, Try and make some new friends, take up a new hobby, do different things, even move if you can do something drastic, because what this is going to allow for you to do is break the things in which you're seeing to then reinvent that subconscious mind and give yourself space for the new identity to be built, right? And then the last one as well, and you can do this as well, and this is a very powerful tool, is you can do it through meditation, right? So you can, meditation, visualization, they're all the same thing. Now, what you can do through visualization and meditation and getting into those deep hypnotic states is you can fabricate a visualization which then signifies an emotion to your body, right? So I'm going to use an example. If you believe that you can never attain the body in which you're looking to attain because your self-worth is low, it's very then hard to start getting into the emotional state and doing the behaviors and get the result in which you're looking to achieve, because you never think it's going to happen. If you never think something's going to happen, why do you expect yourself to do the things in which you need to do to get there? Because they seem like a waste of time. So if you can put yourself in this emotional state that is in line with the result in which you're looking to cultivate. So let's say your dream body. Let's say you're looking to lose 20 kilos, to, you know, literally look entirely different. You're looking to drop 5 or 6 dress sizes. Or as a guy, you're looking to build a ridiculous amount of muscle. What I want you to do is visualize that. And not just visualize it, but really sit within what that feeling feels like. You know, the outfits in which you wear, the way in which people respond to you, the way in which people treat you, and visualize it. And this is what I like to do with some of the people that I work with. I say, visualize this, and don't just visualize it, feel it, right? Go back to the subconscious mind. What is the language of that? It's emotion. So if you can stimulate a visualization that is deeply in line with the version of you which you're trying to cultivate, and you can feel that emotively, you can change the emotive state. You can then start to change the behavior, the result, and then the belief in which you hold. Once the belief is changed, this is the starting spot, because everything flows downstream from that. So if you can change this through getting yourself into a deep visualization and changing the way in which you see everything, and that emotive state which is affecting the subconscious, you can then start to bring these things into fruition. And some of the exercises in which I've got people to do before is I've had people get stuck at certain body weights. So what I get them to do, really simple, visualization. I say, visualize waking up, going to the toilet, doing your usual routine, and seeing the scales hit under X kind of block in which they've got themselves into. And it's crazy how this works, because all of a sudden, the subconscious mind starts to interpret that and goes, I know how it feels emotionally to accept that into my reality, therefore, it happens, and you reaffirm that belief because you got yourself into the emotional state. You could accept it. Your nervous system could then accept it as well because it's felt that emotional experience before, and therefore it cultivates it into your reality. So there's multiple things in which you can do, and every single person needs different things, or a combination of all different things, depending on them, the beliefs which they have, how strong their beliefs are, to get them to where they want to get to. And that's how you then break a self-sabotage cycle. It's how you get yourself through these massive plateaus. It's how you get yourself out of this kind of rinse and repeat, start and stop process in which most people have found themselves in. Okay, so that's how you do it. This is exactly step by step how you can cultivate this. And this is what I do. I'm helping people every single day do this. If you want me to literally help you go through the process of breaking this cycle, changing the way in which you think, your subconscious beliefs and the way you automatically behave, fill in the application form in the top link of my description. I'll reach out to you and I can help you do that. Okay, much love. Hopefully you found this helpful.